Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Disability Matters. I'm Morgan Spicer, Self Advocate Coordinator with People First of West Virginia. I've learned over the years the importance of self advocacy and how much of an impact it makes to have your story out there. Disability Matters is designed to cover a wide range of topics that will inform you, inspire you, and encourage you to strengthen your advocacy journey. We'll do this by offering a variety of guests as well as interviews with advocates around the state. It's not just legislative advocacy, it's so much more. So this month, we had the chance to speak to Steve Slack. He's from Hurricane, West Virginia, and is currently a financial reporting specialist at the West Virginia offices of the Insurance Commissioner. He also has a daughter with Down syndrome. So not only is he a parent, he also helps train law enforcement on how to interact with people who have disabilities. Let's get to that interview now. My guest today is Steve Slack. He is from Hurricane, West Virginia, and currently is a financial reporting specialist at the West Virginia office of the Insurance Commissioner. He also has a daughter with Down syndrome. Not only is he a parent, he also helps train law enforcement on how to interact with people who have disabilities. Thank you so much for joining us, Steve, and welcome to Disability Matters.
Morgan, thank you for having me.
So tell us more about your family.
Well, my wife and I had our first kid when we were in our late 30s. It was our daughter, Sophie. And when she was born, we found out that she had Down syndrome, or at least they suspected that she had Down syndrome. That she had a lot going on with her she was born at Women's and Children's in Charleston. And within 12 hours, they had transferred her to Pittsburgh's Children's Hospital. We were in the middle of a blizzard. They wanted to life flight her, and the airports were down. So she spent a very long ambulance drive. The interstates were closed down except for emergency vehicles. I couldn't go till a couple of days later. My wife had a C-section, and she couldn't leave for a couple of days after that. Once we got to Pittsburgh, it was confirmed. And it also was confirmed to us. My wife's name is Sandy. My name is Steve. And we had decided on the name Sophie. We liked it, but we didn't put it all together. And somebody said, "Oh, how cute, Steve, Sandy, and Sophie." And we looked at each other and said, "Oh, we are so screwed." And she said, "Look, next time we're going to have twins," which I thought was funny because I'm a twin myself. But we did. A couple of years later, we had twin sons. And they're extremely close. They're fraternal twins. But one of the twins is on the autism spectrum. They both do great. I'm a WVU guy, so it sort of hurts to say this, but one son goes to Pitt and the other son goes to Marshall. But that's where my twin went. That's where my mom went. So I'm a big Marshall fan, huge Marshall fan. And Pitt saved my daughter's life. So I'm a big fan of Pitt as well. So I have three children. One has Down syndrome and the other has autism.
Perfect. So it sounds like you're a house divided there. So
Yeah,
usually when it's college football games, it's probably a little difficult.
sometimes, but I unless we're playing each other, I tried to root for them all this year.
Nice. So, what is a financial reporting specialist?
The easiest way to explain it, it's basically an accountant. I do cash statements. I work on the financial statements, journal entries during the audit, those sort of things. And to me, it's one of the best jobs you could ever have. I love numbers. I love accounting. I get to work with really smart people and learn from them. So, but that's what it is, an accounting job.
So back to your work with the National Down Syndrome Society. Talk about your involvement with them and a little about what they do here in West Virginia.
Sure. Well, I'm what you would call Down syndrome ambassador, which is a voluntary position that they have for. There's a lot of self advocates, a lot of parents, and that have these positions. And one of the things that I do is that I give training to law enforcement and first responders. However, there's other activities that I do with them. We have a thing called the West Virginia Able account. Through our treasurer's office, I actually represent the National Down Syndrome Society on its advisory board. And we have a program, an inclusive post-secondary education program at WVU called the Country Roads Program. And I actually was one of the founders of it. I'm an instructor there. And the National Down Syndrome Society worked with us in developing the program.
Yes, and WV Able is one of those programs that, we encourage everybody to learn about. It's such a great program. And
It
we,
really is.
yes, and it's great because we have a People First conference every year in September, and WV Able always shows up. Roxanne's always, she loves to talk about it and, learn. And it's just great because there's, a lot of new changes coming. And I just think the better the knowledge you have, the better off you are, I should say.
Yes.
And, I've actually been considering getting an Able account myself. So might be something I have to do.
I just made a deposit for my daughter in her account.
Yeah, I love how easy it is to just set up everything. And then if someone wants to deposit something, you just give them a link and they do it. It makes it nice.
It does. It's very friendly.
So we read in the news about different interactions law enforcement has with people with disabilities. Tell us how you got involved in training and what information everyone needs to know, and not just law enforcement.
Right. My personal involvement goes all the way back to 2013. In January 2013, a young man named Ethan Saylor, who had Down syndrome, was killed at a movie theater by three off duty deputy sheriffs in Frederick, Maryland. Now, they didn't mean for him to die, they just never had been trained on interactions with people with disabilities. And at the time, there was a governor in Maryland named George O'Malley, and the governor called together afterwards Ethan's mother, Patty Saylor, who had at that time started the Ethan Saylor Alliance, the Department of Justice, Maryland's State Police, the National Down Syndrome Society, and others to come up with sort of a plan. What can we do to train people? And at that point, I really was promoting law enforcement and first responders in general just to go ahead and accept a plan and have this training. In 2018, the then president and CEO of the National Down Syndrome Society and I had met with the United States Marshal Service and the West Virginia State Police and the police chief of Charleston, West Virginia, and say, hey, can you all do this training? And they were very, very receptive on it, but they sort of threw a little two wrenches in it. One, we really like the Maryland training, but it's very Maryland specific. And they asked if the National Down Syndrome Society would work with them in developing training. And I said, yeah. And we'd be happy to do so. And so we did that. Then we had it reviewed by the criminology department at WVU and then the psychology department at Pitt. And in the meantime, we've had other universities get involved with it. Clemson University of New Mexico and a few others that have had things here and there on it. And then the second thing really threw me for a loop. I was asked if I would give the presentation. And I said, I'm an accountant. I don't know if I'm the right person for it. And they said, no, we really think that you can do it. So my first run through was with the United States Marshal Service, and then I was asked to go to the State Police Academy here. And the then Chief of Police of Charleston, Steve Cooper, actually joined me when the first time I trained, and I guess it went well because our State Police Academy told the Kentucky State Police Academy about it, and they had me do it. At the same time, I was trying to get a program started at WVU for kids with intellectual developmental disabilities, an MC program, and which stands for Inclusive Post-Secondary Education Program. It's a certificate program for kids with intellectual developmental disabilities. They live on campus. They're complete members of the student body, but they get a certificate. So it's a little bit different than the HELP program or the autism program at Marshall. And so as we were developing that program, they thought it would be a good idea for WVU's police to get training. And they invite lots of people there, including the FBI. And the FBI saw the training. And next thing you know, they had invited me to present at a conference with other law enforcement throughout the country. The FBI and the West Virginia State Police asked me to speak at the law enforcement conference here in West Virginia. And I guess just sort of word of mouth. And so all of these years later, I'm giving trainings about once or twice a month.
Wow, I mean it sounds like that it's something that I mean, and you do this a lot. Like how many times have you done it? Like the training, like with different groups.
Oh gosh, I've since 2018, without doing the math, uh, it started off about once every 2 or 3 months, then moved up, and now I'll probably give some sort of training twice a month, 2 or 3 times a month. And the trainings I give can vary. If I'm with a crisis intervention team, I normally give a training that just lasts an hour to an hour and a half. My standard training is actually 8 hours. So it's an all day thing, though I do have a half day component of it. And sometimes I'm asked to go and give a training on search and rescue. And that can last anywhere from all day to just as short as a couple of hours. And it seems like when I do those, those are in the evening or on a weekend.
And so is this kind of training, would this be possible for anyone to, like any member of the community could get involved in this?
Yes, yes. And matter of fact, most times when I give a training, I'm fortunate enough to have at least one person, usually more, with a disability or their caregiver um, there. Matter of fact, I prefer to have somebody with a disability there or their caregiver because I just feel people learn more when they get to meet one another.
Yes. And that's, why I love People First so much is because, it's the whole strength in numbers. We're encouraging each other, we're lifting each other up, we're helping each other through, tough times. And, I just love that whole aspect of, we're training the community to be respectful of these individuals because they're just like us. They're just like any of us, and they deserve to be treated fairly and being and respectful.
That's maybe one of the biggest surprises I had with all of this. how receptive the police were in particular with this sort of training. And I've had a lot of conversations with officers and with people with disabilities, and they said, one thing we have in common, there are so many negative stereotypes on both groups. And so the police really relate, and they don't want a repeat of things that happened in the past. And I'll talk about a few things, and they're uncomfortable, but their attitude, without doubt, is one of, all right, this is something that this isn't something that that's being forced upon us. This is a tool that helps us do our job. And we got involved with this sort of line of work because we want to help people, and we want to help all people. And so that's something that a lot of people don't see, or when they think of the police, or any sort of first responder for that matter. So yeah, it's just been eye opening how the two groups have really come together and supported each other.
Wow. And I've actually been with the ARC for almost 5 years, and I have been with Doug on several occasions to where we will go to like OU or different places around the state and do people first training. And, the responses from people just saying, wow, I didn't know this, or you've opened my eyes to help me understand this a little more, are the comments that I like to get because it's like
Yes.
you're learning, and I'm the kind where I love doing trainings because I want to learn more. That way, maybe one day I could help that individual that's going through that problem. So I think you answered my question about like doing training, like if you've done any trainings for other groups. Um, is there any other types of trainings you do?
Yeah, I do the training just for law enforcement, or geared towards that. I'll do the search and rescue. I also have met with medical professionals on bedside manner for people with disabilities, and it all goes together. Say if somebody's EMS, they're going to want that. If it's search and rescue, everybody's involved. And just like you said about always learning, I always feel like I learn. I was from other officers. I was in Bloomberg, Ohio, actually, or Bloomberg, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, just a year ago, and I was talking to this police officer who is just huge and super tough. You could tell, and he broke down in tears because he was the one who found the body of a woman with autism who had been murdered, and so those sort of things, you learn from, and you get ideas. And also didn't expect this. I always thought, all right, I'll go in, say my spiel. Hopefully they're going to pay attention, and that's going to be the end of it. It's really not. I get some sort of message from somebody in the United States in law enforcement every single day, and they'll bounce ideas off me or tell me something that they've done to improve their situation. And so I'm always learning from them, but it's just amazing that contact, that network that's developed. I talk to people from California to Maine every day.
Wow. So you've taken this training out of West Virginia and play and doing it in other places in the United States.
Yeah,
Wow.
and there's always something funny. We had talked before, we're both identical twins. And I was giving a training in Midland, Texas last year, and I stopped and I had a layover in Dallas. And some woman stopped me. It's like, I haven't seen you in 20 years. And I was trying to think who she was, and then realized she knew my brother. And so,
Yeah, and it's just great all the people you meet and all of the connections that you establish. It just makes for one big network.
It does.
So anything else that you would like to talk about that I haven't asked you?
You know, there's one group that I love when they show up for training, and they aren't always invited or people don't always think about them, but that would be dispatch. The dispatch operators, it's so important that they learn proper communication techniques and get an idea of things. So I'd love to have dispatch at these meetings.
Well, great. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Just like you and Doug do for person first training, and Dr. Mark Ellison at Marshall will give training on autism. And people often ask, well, is there a rivalry? I'm like, no, no. Mark and I are actually very, very good friends. Um, I would urge people to get as much training as you can, whether you're a small department or a bigger department. You're not going to hurt our feelings if you call in you guys for person first, people first training, or Mark Ellison for his training and call me. It's not a competition. We're all working together. And I just urge anybody out there, whether you want to get training from me or not. And by the way, all of my trainings are free. So there is no fee for that. The only time I was ever paid, and that was going back to Midland, Texas, they said I had to be paid for tax purposes because they paid every other guest for the United Way. And so we just paid our last guest. And just out of curiosity, I asked, well, who were your last guests? And I was told it was the Bush twins. So I felt bad to have my brother with me. So, but every training I give is free, and we're constantly evolving it. WVU, the Center for Excellence in Disabilities, Dr. Leslie Cottrell has been fantastic in giving us resources and support. We talk about traumatic brain injuries. Colonel Nicole Malachowski, who was retired now. She has Lyme disease, but she was the first female pilot for the Air Force's Thunderbirds unit, has been instrumental in giving me information about Lyme disease that we give. So we cover a lot of topics.
Wow. So that's something that maybe if the individuals we serve is interested in learning more about autism, they could definitely reach out and request that training.
Yes. And again, they could reach out to me, and I will send you my contact information, or they could reach out to Dr. Mark Ellison at Marshall University.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Steve. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be on Disability Matters this month. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Morgan. You take care.
Thanks. You too.
All right.
Thank you so much, Steve, for joining us this month. And don't forget, if you want to be featured on an episode of Disability Matters or have a subject you would like discussed, you can reach out to me by calling the ARC at 304-422-3151 extension 129, or you can email me at morgan.spicer@thearcmov.org. I would love to have you on a future episode. With that, we're out of time for this month. Join us next time for another episode of Disability Matters. We are advocating, educating, and celebrating the potential within you. See you next time.